priest and the captain of the guard and the Sadducees came up to Peter and John while they were speaking to the people. They were greatly disturbed because the apostles were teaching the people, proclaiming in Jesus the resurrection of the dead. They seized Peter and John, and because it was evening, they put them in jail until the next day. But many who heard the message believed, so the number of men who believed grew to about 5,000. A few minutes I want to talk about witness on trial before I get directly to the meat of that. One, I want to acknowledge, for those who do not know, this is Deacon Jones and Kim's last Sunday being here. They will be moving to Texas a few days, a few days from now. So I want to say to both of them that I appreciate all that you've been to our congregation, that you are certainly vital to the life of us and inspiration to all of us. And so we appreciate your commitment and your work to this congregation. We love you. So thank you. You'll be missed. Joy was telling me that I will no longer have a buffer. Joy likes to bother me. And Kim has been a nice buffer for me. And she's not going to be there anymore. She's clapping because she's not going to have a buffer. Amen. Amen. We certainly do appreciate you all. And some people say something a little bit later. We're going to have a reception for them. The title is Witness on Trial. I think I said that. All right. At the end of last week's message, I encourage us to concentrate on the good we can do. Think about where you can make meaningful contributions and make them. Paul, that guy, told me following the service what his plans were to act on that thought and follow through. What did you do? He can tell you all and us what he did, but who else responded to that invitation? Or maybe it wasn't that specific invitation. You've been doing something for some time, for all of your life, to follow through on doing whatever good you can. Because sometimes you can't do all the stuff you want to do, but there's some good that you can do for your family, for your life, for the community, for other people around. So, you want to say what you said you're going to do? You don't want to say what you did. Okay. Lord have mercy. I'm the old one, right? He said he couldn't remember. So what he said and what he did, he said he was going to meet with some of our young people yesterday, talk to them about organizing their schoolwork, education, that kind of stuff. And I think he even said he was going to buy pizza for them, and he did. And so a few of them came by yesterday, and he met with them. So that was some good that he could do, which he doesn't remember, unfortunately. But actually, that's good too. When you do so much good, you can't remember everything. That's what's up. That's what's up. Nice fit. Anybody else who followed through on inspiration, on doing what good we can? And I know one reason for that message is because I've just heard a lot of complaining for 2 years. Right? And that's real. You know what complaint does to us sometimes? It locks us up where we can't see around the stuff that's in our way or through the things that's in our way, and we actually seize up on doing the good we can. How about others who do stuff all of the time? Maybe you've been doing things for a while. Some good things in your life to shine a little light in your family, to shine a little light in your community, on your job. Now come on, y'all ain't gonna talk to me this morning, because I know somebody has been doing some good stuff. Okay, it's gonna be one of those mornings. All right, okay, I'll move on. I'll leave you alone. I'll move on. This message is about the challenges we face when we're committed to follow God. Peter and John in the text, they are the two primary subjects there. Both disciples of the Lord Jesus, following the crucifixion and resurrection of the Lord, decided they were going to tell people about the power of faith in God in our lives. They were teaching people about Jesus, proclaiming in Jesus the resurrection of the dead. I need you to know there were two major forces against the disciples talking about Jesus. Those forces were the Roman government and the Jewish faith leadership. Who knows why the Roman government was against Peter and John talking about Jesus? talking about resurrection. Why were they against that message? Anybody? Threaten the power establishment. Good answer. Man, you make me think you've been around me for a little while. Threaten the power, absolutely. It wasn't so much that faith was something that they cared about, but faith threatened the power establishment. They didn't want a new narrative about hope being for the marginalized, all of the marginalized. So yeah, who knows why the Jewish faith leadership was threatened by the message? Anybody?
Well, it was also the belief that he had over people. They didn't believe, well, they wanted them to follow their protocol on faith and Christianity, not the way they
Yes, it's also a twist on what he just said about the Roman government. It also threatened their rule, their power, right? And not to mention, how do people act when they're wrong and they don't want to admit they're wrong? They get mad and get threatened a lot of times, right? Because they had just crucified Jesus. They had agreed that Jesus needed to be crucified. He was a bad guy. He was a threat to everybody around. And they had followed through on that. And Jesus got up from the grave, which they tried to, let's not talk about that. Right? If you're on your job, and you work for somebody who's threatened by your excellence, and you do something that's good that promotes the company, do they automatically embrace you? If they're threatened, I mean, not everybody's threatened. But if they're threatened, no, they don't embrace you because they don't want you to look good. Right? They don't want you to be right. You might end up with more influence than they have. And so, whether we're talking about the Roman government or whether we're talking about the Jewish faith leadership, both of them were threatened because it was a direct affront to what they believed, to what they wanted in life, to how they wanted to see life. Even though it was dangerous to talk about Jesus in the first century, the apostles faced the danger and talked about Jesus anyway because they were convinced that faith in Jesus made life better, and faith in Jesus addressed their real life concerns and provided answers and direction for their life's journey. How many of you know that Jesus never avoided the social concerns of his day? Ever. Could be lost on a lot of people, but no, he never did. How many of you know he addressed health concerns, faith concerns, cared about families, cared about the stranger in our midst, a whole host of issues Jesus took head on. He never avoided life, and neither should we. What are some of the concerns that you have today? Don't be quiet on this thing. What are some of your concerns as you look around your life, as you look around in your community? What are some of your social, health, religious, whatever? What are some of your concerns today?
Violence.
You say what you say? Homeless?
Violence.
Violence. What kind of violence? I'll push it a little bit. What kind of violence in the community?
Black on black.
Black on black. Black on black what? Black on black pepper? Black on black crime. I got you. All right. What else? Motivation when times are hard. You talking about yourself? Motivation when times are hard. I'm with you. All right. Yes. Finances. Amen. Anybody else got money problems every once in a while? Amen. Some people don't think young people have money problems. Amen. That's right. Finance, everybody needs money. The people scared to talk about money. Everybody needs money to live. You know, if not yours, somebody else's. It actually doesn't have to be your money to survive, to do with. It doesn't. You know, if you're afraid to use somebody else's money, give it to me. Amen? What are some of the other issues that you are concerned with? Things that you face, things that you're up against. Say that again. White patriarchy. See, I'm really tempted now, but I better not be tempted. Don't be tempted. What do you mean by white patriarchy?
Social oppression, holding the uplift and uphold whiteness and
Light is the standard by which we need to live. That's a shortened version of what that means. It certainly needs to be unpacked and deserves to be unpacked a lot more, which I'm not going to do right now. But that as the standard, right? And no, I'm not going to go where I was going. But yes, okay. Anything else that somebody you're dying to get out, that's about you, that you're up against, that you're struggling against, that you're facing some concern that you have?
Opportunities in the schools.
Opportunities in school.
That's racial injustice.
Racial injustice. Amen. All right. Amen. I get upset just to mention this, and I want to be fair. I get a little upset with the internalized oppression once in a while. Just saying. Just saying. All right. Well, what this message is really about is that Jesus is concerned about every one of those things that we mentioned and even more. The reason that Peter and John were in the streets is because they believed that faith in God brought compassion and competence to our problems. Compassion because when we're facing something, we need acknowledgement from others that what we're facing is a real problem. Is what I mean by that. You ever been struggling against something?
Oh, yeah.
And people around you were they knew what you were struggling, and they was wondering what was the big deal about it?
Yeah.
You ever been in that situation? They acted like your problem was nothing, and you should have been over it a long time ago if it was ever a problem at all. Right? There's one thing that bothers me, that really bothers me, is when somebody comes in my life and they see my mountain and call it a molehill at best. Right? Right? I mean, that just bothers me. When I'm in the middle of something, even if it's not your problem, I want you to have compassion with me that I'm going through something.
Amen.
That is real, even if it's not real for you, it's real for me. I need compassion. Helps me really square up, face my situation a little bit better, and actually be able to find some center.
Yes.
So I can figure out where I am and maybe what I need to do.
Yes, sir.
But I need more than compassion. I need some competent guidance, wisdom in my life to show me the way through my issue and come out on the other side with a smile. If all I have is compassion in my face, I'm lost. Y'all hear me, right? Even if I got compassion, if that's it, I don't want it. Because if compassion is all you have for me, then that means I'm stuck in my situation. Right? That means my pain continues and endures. There's no hope of me coming through. But if you give me some confidence in the middle, that means you know how to get me through this. You know the way out. You know how to help me stand back erect and face my situation, put money back in my bank account, to find help when I need it, to correct the things that are wrong in my community, to get drugs out of my family, out of my children, out of my relatives. You know how to fix whatever it is that I'm doing. Amen. Amen. I need some confidence, not just compassion. I need competence as well. And what they were saying, what Peter and John were saying, the reason that they were willing to face the dangers in their life is because they had seen that faith in God gives them compassion, but also confidence in the middle of their situation. I need somebody to show me how to navigate life's mazes.
Yes.
How to get through all of the twists and turns in my life, in our life, in the life of our church, the life of our community. They were in the streets proclaiming the resurrection of the dead in Jesus because they had experienced resurrection. How many of you ever experienced resurrection in your life? You've been down. Might have thought you was out. Right? Might have thought there was no hope or you didn't see any immediate hope. To come back from that is a kind of resurrection. To renew your faith in God, in your ability to succeed, to say there is real life. You want to say something? What does resurrection mean? Good question. We have an answer. I know the definition, but do we have somebody else who want to answer? Yeah, come back to life. So if you're dead, you actually come back to life from death. So metaphorically, what I'm talking about is if you've lost everything and really don't see your way back from that sense of being lost, resurrection is when you actually come back from wherever you were lost and feel good, are good, have everything restored for you. Amen. So that's resurrection. Good question. Thank you for asking. All right? Amen. They had experienced this resurrection. They knew it. They understood it. And they wanted to share it with others. New life after being counted out. The message of Jesus does not fit neatly in the world. Y'all know that? It doesn't. The fact that the message of faith doesn't fit neatly actually has nothing to do with ordinary people despising faith. Don't get me wrong, there are people now and will always be people who don't want anything to do with God. But the reason faith does not fit is because powerful forces want to dominate our lives, our thoughts, and our values. Powerful forces either co-opt faith in God or marginalize it because faith offers genuine hope to those people that powerful systems scapegoat and marginalize. I got a leaflet in my mail the other day. Let's focus on faith, right? Nice letterhead and everything looked really good. And it wanted to teach me how to vote based on my values. It was actually not trying to teach me how to vote based on my values, trying to teach me how to vote based on somebody else's values. Right? But it wanted to co-opt faith in God. To make me believe that if I followed what they were doing, then I was in line with who God was. Powerful forces and systems either want to co-opt faith or marginalize those. That it scapegoats, that it wants to just use as the asset on which it can build its wealth on. It can maintain its systems on. How many of you ever felt marginalized? I felt marginalized, right? Felt like I was one of many, and it wasn't many with me to help. At times I felt that way, and I had a whole bunch of people around me who felt and believed the same way that I did, and at times I felt that way, and it was nobody else around me who believed and shared my faith and my values. Right? Well, powerful systems, what they want to do is they want to keep the marginalized marginalized. As Peter and John were preaching about Jesus and proclaiming resurrection through him, the priest, the captain of the temple guard, and the Sadducees came up to Peter and John. Tell somebody intimidation. That really is what was going on in that case. They were there to intimidate them. There are basically two kinds of intimidation. One, people try to scare you, but actually they don't have anything to follow through on their threat. Right? What'd you say? Yeah, we used to call that selling wolf chickens. Y'all remember that? Right. I mean, if you're trying to raise up on somebody, intimidate somebody, but you can't back up what you threaten, you just selling wolf chicken. You hoping. You really are hoping they don't try it. That's what you hope. That's one real kind of intimidation. People try to do that all the time. Amen. There are people on your job who will tell you that they're going to fire you. They don't even have the authority to fire you. Right? They try to tell some people try to tell you that they're going to tell your husband and your wife that they saw you somewhere. And they don't even have the power or authority to do that. Here's why I say that. Everybody know they're alive and won't nobody believe nothing they say. I mean, that's not real. Can't follow through. But there's another kind of intimidation. The other kind of intimidation is where the intimidator has actual forces behind him to hem you up. Right? I've experienced both. Right? I have. I've had people run up on me who was going to stare me down and talk about what they was going to do to me. My brother brags about one of those moments all of the time. When I was a little kid, he got me in a fight with another little kid. That little kid, he ran up on me and talked about all of the stuff that he was going to do to me. How he was going to beat my head in and all that other kind of stuff. He headed to Los Angeles, California, and a police officer pulled me over. Out of uniform, police officer pulled me over and threatened me to cooperate with him. He had every bit of the forces behind him to follow through on his threat. Got on his radio, called some other officers. They handcuffed me and took me to jail. Right? There are some intimidators who have the power to follow through. They don't have to be right. Y'all get that right? They don't have to be right about what they're doing. The only thing that they need is someone to support what they want, right or wrong. There are people in this world who have others who are behind them who can follow through on their threat regardless of whether they're right or wrong. But let me tell you this. Here's why Peter and John was out preaching Jesus Christ and the resurrection of the Lord. Is because even though that they knew that the intimidators in front of them had forces behind them to follow through, they knew that the intimidators had power, but they did not have authority. Y'all know the difference between power and authority? Power is kind of the making things happen that you want to happen. But if you don't have the authority, somebody can reverse what you thought you were going to make happen. Right? And the only person who has authority over our lives is Jesus Christ. Peter and John had both experienced that because they saw those intimidators in the past confront Jesus, take Jesus, crucify him, and all. But they also saw the authority of God get Jesus up from the grave. To reverse whatever others do in our life, that's real authority. The reason that they were out there, the reason that they were proclaiming Jesus and resurrection of life is because they knew intimidators really didn't matter. Who mattered more than anything and everything else was the King of Kings, faith in God, and all that he wants to do in it. The intimidators threw them in jail. I just mentioned I've been to jail. I don't want you to raise your hand if you've been to jail. Amen. Amen. If you've been to jail for doing God's work, you can raise your hand. I've done that too. But don't miss the textual commentary, right? Peter and John went to jail, but many who heard the message believed. They were making a difference. They were restoring lives. They were changing the course of history for many communities. The intimidators meant to see what they were going to do about these people who were a threat to their message, who were a threat to their way of life. They did not want the gospel to get in people's head and the spirit. Y'all know why they didn't want the gospel to get in people's head and spirit? Sometimes we don't pay attention to the power of narrative, right? And the gospel is a powerful narrative, but it's a narrative. If you think that there's nothing that you can do about your situation, what's going to happen with you? You're going to stay right there. You don't think there's anything you can do. Most of the time, you're not going to even try. Why? Because you think trying is just an effort in failure. But if you believe that there's a power above all of the other powers that's around, if there's something that can counteract the forces of evil that are in your midst, if you believe that no matter what the illness is that's operating in your community, in your family, whatever, that there's an answer for that, that God can address that, even though scientists haven't figured out what the cure is, if you believe that God can turn anything and anything around at any moment, if you believe that, you don't really care about the other powers in the world. What you care about is that God hearing our prayers. That's right. Right? That's right. You believe that your efforts and your trust and your faith in God means that God can change the course of life, of history, the direction of our nation, of our family, of whatever. If you believe that, you're going to try. That's right. Right? You will stand on the principles of who God is. You will join hands with others. You will make sure that people hear the message of God because you know it's not fake. You know it's real. You know if it gets in our spirits and in our head, it'll change our actions, our belief, our direction, and it can change the course of anything and yes, everything as well. That's why they didn't want them to preach. That's why they did not want them to proclaim the resurrection through Jesus Christ. Is why they wanted them to shut up. So they questioned him. This is what they asked. By whose power do you proclaim Jesus? By whose power do you live your life? By whose authority do you do the things that you're doing? I actually like how the disciples responded in that moment. They called them into account under the guise of how was a lame man healed by them. And that's what they really said. You really gonna question me because I've been doing good? I mean, because really that's what it amounts to. You're questioning me and my authority, and you're locking me up because I'm helping people get better? It's a fair question, isn't it? So just look around you and your community and the things that you're doing and think about all the people who've questioned you by going out of your way trying to help somebody. I know it's happened to me. Has it ever happened to you? When you've gone out of your way, well, you're supposed to be over here doing this, but you're helping people. They're trying to call you to an account because you're changing people's belief, their understanding of themselves. You're helping them get out of their ruts, and there are some people who don't want people to get out of their ruts. There's some people who want everybody else to stay underneath their thumbs so that they can have people to walk on all of that. So they told him, it is the name of Jesus of Nazareth. That's the authority under which we're doing what we're doing. And there's salvation found in no other name, not just salvation from sin, but salvation from a lot of the mess that we're stuck in as well. The intimidators wanted to belittle the apostles, so they called them unschooled and ordinary. It's kind of a historical, fair way to attack people, right? You don't know nothing, right? People come up to you, you don't know what you're talking about. Don't they? It doesn't matter how many degrees you got, anything else. People will still try to label you with, you unschooled, you don't know anything, when they're trying to belittle you. And the reason that they do that is because sometimes if we're not feeling just right, it doesn't matter how much we know, people can convince us we don't know anything. Right? That what we're saying makes no sense at all. So they call them unschooled and ordinary. Probably about the worst comment that you can tell anybody who thinks they look good. You're rather ordinary looking. Here's one thing though. No matter what people call you, they cannot dismiss the good that you've done. Right? Whenever somebody try to tell me that I ain't done nothing right, I don't usually pay attention to what I have, but when somebody tells me that I haven't done anything right, I stop for a minute and I just look around myself for a little bit. So if I haven't done anything right, then I wouldn't have 2 college graduates for children, right? If I hadn't done anything right. That's true. If I hadn't done anything right, I wouldn't have a home to live in, right? Amen. Praise God. Amen. If I hadn't done anything right, then I wouldn't have been able to convince a state organization at a time when they was acting real crazy to give some money to people for training for jobs. I just stop for a minute. That's really the answer when people want to call you unschooled and ordinary. Stop and take some inventory of what God has been able to do through you. Of the sanity that you exhibit. Of the fact of what happens with your children and the other people that you invest your life. Stop and take some inventory. That answers every accusation. So while they were trying to call them unschooled and ordinary, the person that they had healed was right there in front of them. If they didn't know anything, how in the world would they heal somebody who had been born lame? How would the power of God be real in somebody else's life? It's really an opportunity for you to laugh at somebody who's trying to tell you you ain't got nothing when you have a whole bunch of stuff that you produce. It's not a reason to get mad. It's really an opportunity to laugh. Oh, I haven't done anything. Oh, really? Check this out. It's an opportunity to stand in the power of God and be proud of who God is and how the Lord works in your life and in the life of all of those who trust Him. We can't always see those who've been healed in our midst. We can't. Because the world tells us We shouldn't broadcast it. We shouldn't talk about that. We shouldn't promote the healing of God. Nobody will believe us. We can't always see the marriages that have been renewed just by the grace of God only. We can't see the lives of children that have been turned around by the power of who God is and how the Lord works in their lives. We can't see the cancers that have been healed. We can't see families that have been turned around and while they were broken, now they're healed and they're standing together in the power of the Lord. We can't see communities connect together who had once been disconnected, and they stand together for good and for social concerns, and they vote the way so that people's lives beyond there is a blessing in the hands. We can't always see God's healing in our midst. But you know what? I think we need to bring it back. I think we need to recenter the power of God in our midst so that when somebody comes and runs us down to tell us that we're not about anything, we have examples that we can point to of the power and the goodness of God. Forces around us are determined to stop the gospel from spreading more. They're determined to stop the gospel from being a new narrative. So they warn them and they warn us to speak no longer in that name. They said what we need to say. What is right in God's eyes? Do we need to listen to you or do we need to keep on doing it? We forget sometimes, brothers and sisters, the power of the gospel narrative. Y'all know how bad the world was in the first century? How much opposition there was against the Lord and the power of God? Do you understand what the narrative of the gospel did? It changed the way people thought and acted. In the first century, the world was against God. It was against Jesus. There were only a handful of people who believed in the gospel of Jesus Christ. In what I consider a short period of time, that whole narrative switched. From despising Jesus to caring about God and the gospel and the principles of God. In under 300 years, the whole world starting with 12 people. That's the power of the gospel narrative. That's the power of God. We need to say and think. We can't help but keep speaking about what we've heard and seen. People will praise the power of God when we allow God's power to flow through us. And we need to be more diligent about teaching people that the gospel is enough and proclaiming the power of resurrection from the dead. But there's no way we can proclaim the power of resurrection from the dead if we can't point to people whose lives were dead, torn apart, in shambles, who've been restored. Unless we can point to people who have been so ill that they've been counted out and the power of God has healed them. Unless we can point to marriages, unless we can point to families, unless we can point to communities that have been restored by God's power. We can't preach the resurrection from the dead unless you're willing to stand up yourself and talk about how the gospel changed your life. Maybe you're one of those people who shouldn't have the job that you got right now. It actually, for some of us, it actually makes no sense that we're working where we are and we're making the kind of money that we're making. For some of us, that's true. Not true for everybody, but that message, that witness is among us. Maybe you're one of those people whose son or daughter, everybody had counted out and they were never going to succeed in life. Right? But right now they're running organizations. Amen. They're investing in the lives of children who were just like them. Yes. We need witnesses who are willing to stand up and point a real finger to how Jesus makes a difference. Yes. Real true brothers and sisters, on our own, we're up against far too much. We are There are too many forces against us, and they're too powerful on our own. Real truth, brothers and sisters, if it depended on us and what we can do without God, we fail every time. But if we follow the power of God that always comes through for us, then we can raise the standard of who God is, trust in Him, and He can turn any situation around. Doesn't matter how small it is or how large it is. Doesn't matter whether you're the only person having a problem, everybody in the universe is having the same issue and struggle. It doesn't matter how big it is or how small it is. What matters is that God is real. Faith in the Lord changes us, has the capacity to change our entire world. I forget that sometimes. When I get bogged down in the middle of my problems and everybody else's problems, sometimes I forget that God can change my situation in a whisper. I forget and I start working real hard on my own, and I pray that in those times somebody has the courage to come slap me back into my senses. I'm actually being honest about that, because you know what happens when I start working real hard on my own, right? Most of the time I make a hole dig. I dig a big hole for myself to try to get out, because I'm working according to my ingenuity, to my wisdom, rather than to the power and authority of God. Peter and John knew that. They were two apostles in the midst of government forces and religious forces that were attacking the church. Y'all know why the world don't really want the gospel of Jesus Christ to flourish now? Because the faith of God stands in opposition to all of the nonsense that the government is talking, and unfortunately, a lot of times to what the church is talking. Amen? Amen. Real faith in God stands in opposition against all of that nonsense. Because some of us, in the church, we want to marginalize some people too.
Yes.
I mean, we do. Because you ain't worthy. You don't have the education I have. You don't think like I think. You don't worship in the same way that I worship. It's all of these people that we want to count out. You live in the wrong neighborhood. Amen. You speak with an accent, whatever it is. There's some churches that just, they want to restrict who can come to God. You know what the gospel said? Anybody who wants to come, let them come. Amen. Anybody who's been counted out, let me count you in. Anyone who's sick, let me heal. If you're broken, I can mend you. Doesn't matter what you've come through. When you come to Christ, come to the gospel as an answer for every situation. Sometimes we forget that message. What I hope for us is that we have somebody who will snap us back into reality. I know that doesn't sound pleasant. Amen. But I'd rather be slapped back into reality than to continue journeying into some dismal detriment that keeps me locked in fear and in hopelessness. I'd rather somebody tell me the way through my situation than to let me journey on believing that there is no way through it, that I'm doomed to the misery that I'm in. The power of Peter and John was that they were good witnesses. You don't know it yet, brothers and sisters, we are always on trial. Do we believe God enough? Do we trust Him enough even when we're in the middle of stuff? Do we trust that He has an answer for our specific situation? It actually doesn't take God long to answer. Some of us think we have to pray 5 months, 5 years. 50 years. We don't. God got an answer for us right now. Right here in this moment. He probably already answered you, but you're saying that wasn't God, that was something else. You know, I had a bad nightmare. God has an answer for every situation, not just to show you compassion. I like compassion, but it's not just to show you compassion. Just give you confidence to face squarely whatever you're up against and come through on the other side of this. Amen. You know what the bonus is? Come tell somebody after you get through. Amen.
Amen.
I don't want to know why you're going through. I want to see you on the other side.
Amen.
Because I want to know you actually got through on the other side. Don't give me no testimony and you ain't through with the test yet. You still in the middle of the test. Take the test. Right? But when you get through with the test, when you finish taking the test and you've gotten through on the other side and you've come through and you've come through good in God, I want to hear your story so that you can stand as a witness for us to point to. It's the power of God.